This is John Bailey, the epic voice of Honest Trailers, and you're listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. It's a Fangirls podcast with five-ish people. The tangents and squee will continue. Squee.
The tangents and squee continue all the way to episode 364 of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. And I always make sure to live by my motto: dignity. Always dignity. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. So glad you could join us. Let's start off like they do every like we do every week. I don't know what that was. By going around the virtual table and see who joined us this week.
This is Chrissy in Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Happy second day of spring. Yay!
Well, if as long as it is spring where you are, we got snow yesterday.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It was a blizzard, and I was like, "Are we sure that today's the first day of spring?"
Yeah,
but you know.
Well,
there
then if you're
is.
on the other side of the hemisphere, you're going into the cold weather season. So
That is true. It's fall where you are, so you know.
Yep. For all our Australian friends, I am so sorry.
Hey, maybe they like fall. I don't know.
That's true. That is true. All right. Well, we don't really have a whole lot in the way of news, other than we got our first trailer, and then for our first look at Miss Marvel, coming this summer to Disney Plus. I'm so excited. June 8th. Start streaming. I'm so excited. So, and I love the fact that we are getting, because Kamala Khan is fairly new character anyway.
She's just in the last
in the comic books.
Yeah, she's been new just in the last. Now, as I understand it, the character or the superhero has kind of
she
gone
was
through
unnamed in a Captain Marvel Volume 7, number 14 in July 2013. She got officially was named January 2014. So yeah, she's not even been around a decade yet as a character.
Yeah, well, and it's yeah. So the character has kind of gone through this, I don't know what to call it, just sort of this chain of, first it was this, then it was that, then it was this, and it was that, but it's because she was Marvel, no, Captain Marvel. Well, first
she's a fangirl first, So
the character. Someone explained it to me, and now I'm blanking on what it was. But there's been like four different versions of this character, all with different names before.
Yeah.
But here, so the title has kind of gotten passed around a little bit. But this particular character is
which that happens in comics quite a bit. I mean,
yes,
we talked about that when we talked about Captain Marvel and the whole thing between not just Captain Marvel in Marvel, but Captain Marvel versus Shazam
and Shazam. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see how this one, because the comic itself has been getting mixed reception, like among comic book readers, but maybe it'll do better as a show. Who knows?
Yeah,
but we will see.
Yeah, it's just it's it's like on one hand, I mean, I'm excited regardless.
No, I'm just
it's new Marvel, and that always makes me happy. But I also, because the MCU is now going on 14 years, old.
Yeah.
In May. So uh as we've talked about, a lot of the OG are not around anymore for whatever
Yeah.
reason. Either the character has, well, most of them, their characters have died.
Yeah. Or the actor is like, hey, Robert Downey Jr., hey, I've done this for years and years, and now I,
Yeah,
want to go
well,
on and do other
his
things.
character is dead, so
Well, yes. They didn't have to kill him off, but
I know, and I'm still bitter about that. But either the characters have died or they're just getting up there in years and therefore cannot do, there's they can help lead in the next generation, which is what we're getting. We've got Kate Bishop, obviously, who was introduced in Hawkeye. And now we're getting Kamala Khan. We're gonna get Riri Williams. Eventually Wanda's kids are gonna come back even older than they were at the end of WandaVision. So yeah, we're ushering in the next generation, but there's only so many younger without going too young, because obviously they need to be old enough to justify them putting in harm's way.
Yeah.
So but I'm excited for it. It looks really good. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, her just running, people are like, oh, yeah, the snobs in her school are like, oh, another Avengers t-shirt. And I'm like, that would so be me. I would be Kamala Khan.
which is funny because
I feel
it's like,
it.
what, like, how many kids do I see, kids, teens, even adults, like wearing Marvel t-shirts, and it's just kind of like, it's like, yeah, that's totally not relatable.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. It's like, I was wearing a Marvel shirt yesterday. I've got Marvel shirts, I've got Marvel sweatshirts, I've got Marvel shoes. Okay? So don't at me.
Exactly.
I am with Kamala Khan. I stand with her. Wear the geek t-shirts, girlfriend. I'll be right there with her. So, but yeah, June 8th should be fun. So she'll be coming in right after Moon Knight finishes, thereabouts. So with a little bit of a break there in between, because I think Moon Knight's 6 is going to be 6 episodes, I think. So he'll run till early May-ish. So so then we'll be bouncing between Miss Marvel and Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes, indeed.
It's going to be like Christmas in July, before July. But other than that, that's really all we got for the news, actually. So other than if you are a Patreon supporter of Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast, this month's patron selected episode is now available for you within Patreon. We talked about the lovely 90s film The Fugitive with Holly.
Yes. Yep. That was it was fun last night.
Yeah.
we were all kind of on the same page, which was really, really cool, because sometimes we necessarily aren't. Well, and it's kind of nice that I pick movies that Zan's is like, ooh, thank you.
Yeah.
I like this one. It's like, Zan and I kind of had the same taste, and I was like, yep, I know which ones to ask for.
Yep. So you can, if you're already a supporter on Patreon, thanks. If not, you can go join Patreon and listen to that one plus all the other ones we've done, which has been a lot, even at once a month. There's quite a decent back catalog. So.
Yes, there is.
Oh,
and all worth the listen.
Yeah. And in the best segue ever, one of those earliest Patreon episodes was us talking about the movie we're going to be talking about this week on this show. So, because I love this movie. We don't have any feedback, so we're moving right along to this week's main topic, which is the this year is the, I say this like I was around then, but it still makes me feel old, the 70th anniversary of my absolute favorite movie of all time. If I had to watch one movie for the rest of my life, it would probably be this. Yeah, this is the only movie on Gold Standard, Patreon or otherwise, that I've given 10. And will remain that way for quite a while. More than likely.
Sounds like it.
Yes. Yes, this is Singin' in the Rain, one of my absolute favorite movies of all time.
And Rachel,
in my
opinion,
see why. One of the greatest movie musical of all time, and honestly, in my opinion, the greatest movie of all time. Sorry, Citizen Kane in 2001: A Space Odyssey. Take a back seat to The Man with the Umbrella. Oh, yeah.
Which Derek did try to do a impressive job last night.
Yes, I know. It's so I was scrolling on Twitter before going to sleep last night, and I kept seeing this snippet pop up because it was paid advertising, and it's it was a shot of Julie. It was a shot of Julianne being flipped on the 2x4. And I was like, wait a minute. What's this? And they're like, tonight on ABC. And I'm like, oh, I missed it. They're like, tomorrow on Hulu. I'm like, perfect.
Opening number.
Exactly. It's like it's
they're going there. Yes.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you can go watch it on Hulu, at least in the United States. It's Step Into the Movies with Derek and Julianne Hugh. I don't know exactly how their last name is. They both been on Dancing with the Stars as the professionals. And so it was there. I'm sure this was done because the Academy Awards are coming up. It makes good filler television and gets people in the movie mindset for the red carpet. So the premise is they're putting together kind of this variety type show where they do homages to some of the greatest dance sequences in cinema history. And they do disco for Saturday Night Fever. They do all that jazz from Chicago. Their big finale is the big finale dance from Dirty Dancing. So it's like all of these recognizable song and dance numbers, but they start with Singin' in the Rain. But do they do one number? No. They do multiple numbers for Singin' in the Rain because that's how good it is. They can't do just one.
Yep.
Every other movie, it's just one. This one, they do multiple. So, yeah.
Rachel's proven her point.
Yes, there you go. So Rachel, I am curious.
See this.
When did you like? How did you decide Singin' in the Rain was your favorite? Like, how old were you when you first saw it? And
oh my God, I don't
sort of like what appealed to you about it. I'm
Inquiring minds want to know.
Yes. Yeah. It's very fascinating how people fixate on their favorite thing.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I odds are the first time I saw it, I was probably too young to remember.
Okay.
Because even though my mom was more, her side of the family was more the entertainment lineage, like she was a dancer, her mom was an actress and did shows and stuff. And my uncle, her brother, still does plays and musicals and stuff now. I don't know if this was something my mom would have shown me. I almost want to say this was something more likely my dad would have shown me, though, because he and I have a mutual love for another movie that actually is having an anniversary this year, The Music Man.
Yes.
So,
Nice.
I love that one. We may have to review that one another time.
It's on the list.
Ooh,
Yeah.
good,
Yes.
good. And the funny thing is I taped that on St. Patrick's Day. I DVR'd it. Yay! Serendipity. Perfect.
Yes.
I own the DVD, so
Yeah, I
yes.
did too.
Not deleting.
So odds are this is something probably my dad showed me at some point, but I was probably too young to remember. My earliest memory of knowing like who Gene Kelly was is actually in high school, which I could say that wasn't that long ago, but it's been more than 20 years since I graduated high school. It's been 25 years since I started high school, so it's been a while. That I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just a combination of me being in like drama class and us talking about like the history of theater, and therefore that includes musicals and the way stuff has been adapted. I don't know. It's just one of those things.
It's just always been there.
I discovered it and I zeroed in on it, and I'm like, the thing right there, that's my thing. And nobody can tell me otherwise.
Well, there you go.
And I have been obsessed with Gene Kelly ever since.
Okay.
I read books about him. I tried to watch as much as his stuff as possible, which in the mid to late 90s was a lot harder to get your hands on things, because if your local video rental store didn't have it, sorry,
you were SOL.
You were kind of SOL, and like libraries didn't have the multimedia catalogs that they do now.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, streaming was not a thing.
Or if they did have it, it was real. If the libraries did have the multimedia, it was a real strict. It was a quick turnaround, not like today, where you can have it for this long. It's like, nope, you need to have it back in X number of days.
Yeah. Like, can you bring this back tomorrow, please?
5 minutes from now.
Yeah.
You can have
it.
You can have it till then.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. We live in a time where we have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to classic.
That's a good way of putting it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
Yes,
I think of that, especially with my anime fandom. Oh my goodness, yes. What times we are living in now, but whether it's classic Hollywood films or what have you,
or the people who decide to wait and then binge, and it's just like, oh yeah. And for those of us who are just like, give me now, and then have to wait a week, or what do you mean there's a cliffhanger? I'm going to be on hiatus for 3.5 months.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's see. So this was the first time I'd actually seen this movie.
Really?
Really.
Wow.
Somehow it just was one of those things, like, I just missed it. There's a lot of old movies I've seen, a lot of musicals I've seen. But yeah, this is the first time, and I had seen clips of it, and I knew about the scene, the I can't stand him, and I can't stand him. I had a roommate in high school, not high school, college though. And she would quote that, and she was like really into old movies. She showed me Roman Holiday, which is like, my heart, I love it. And she was always going to show me Singin' in the Rain, and we just never got around to it. So, hi Shelly if you're listening. But yeah, so like all these little lines and things, I'm like, oh, she used to say that's like that's where that comes from. And all these different things.
I called Chauncey a big lummox all the time, and he would not get the reference. He's like, where did you get that from, that word lummox? I'm like, it's for singular. I finally had to pull the clip of when Lena is admitting what she did to Kathy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Dawn is all like, I'll break every bone in your body. And she's like, you and who else, you big lummox?
And it's just like, don't tempt them, because they are very tempted to. It's like, come on,
like, I'd rather kiss a tarantula.
Yeah. Yes. Hey, I could get you a tarantula. I'd rather kiss a Wookiee.
Yeah.
I can arrange that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I did like it. I did enjoy it. The music and the dancing was a lot of fun. And there were parts like Alex came in and was watching, and it was the sequence "Make 'Em Laugh" where he's like falling over the couch and doing all these things, and Alex is just laughing out loud. He loved it. Oh my gosh!
Oh, good.
Then the song ended, and then they started talking, and he like wandered off, and then he came back for the big Broadway number towards the end, and he thought that was great.
Cool.
But yeah, so he enjoyed it. Of course, my kids will watch Bollywood videos, so I like kind of was telling them, look, this is kind of like Bollywood. There's singing and there's dancing. It's not the same, not quite the same, but there's some similarities to it. So for as short attention span as Alex has, he was enthralled by the dancing. It was when they were talking, and then the plots that the story was moving on. He was less interested. But the music, the dancing, he was into it, which was really cute. I was trying to get a video of him, but Lottie was curled up on me in kind of an awkward position. And I was like, dang it. I was going to try to get a video of him and send it to you guys. Like, look, he's losing his mind and he's loving it.
I love it.
Alex, you can thank Lottie later.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But he was so cute. It's cute when you're 4.
Yeah. Well, keep the film in the rotation, and maybe he'll do it again.
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe.
I hope you'll keep it in the rotation.
I think so. I mean, I don't know that it's going to be like my all-time favorite like it is for you, Rachel, because I have other all-time favorites, but it was a good time. It was a lot of fun. I really like the music, and the story was a little bare bones, but I think it kind of has to be because of all the music and the dancing, and that's really where the movie shines, is with all of that, the actual because the plot is just basically the talking pictures are coming to Hollywood. You have this one actress who she is not going to thrive in that environment, and there's a lot of growing pains with that, and so they need to find someone who can make her look or sound good, and she's very she's very much a diva about it, and then she gets her comeuppance, and so there's not a lot to the plot, but that's more so they can have time to sing and dance, and Gene Kelly can do his awesome tap dance routines.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, it's like, for this being 1952, the big Hollywood musical is still a thing, but it is slowly phasing out. They were lucky they got this in when they did. Because in like less than a decade, the big flashy Hollywood musical would be kind of DOA. There would still be the occasional one that would pop up, obviously, because we got like West Side Story and still My Fair Lady and Sound of Music and stuff to come, and Mary Poppins. But those were the last vestiges of the big flashy Hollywood musical.
It was kind of a nostalgia thing, like, oh, remember when they used to do that?
It's a love letter to the real golden age of Hollywood, which was the once sound had been adapted, musicals were one of the genres that really took off.
Oh, of course.
And that's where we get, the big, Busby Berkeley type musicals that we equate with the 30s and 40s. And so it's a love letter to a bygone era, but it's also a bit satirical too, poking fun at Hollywood in this time period, which is not something you would expect in the early 50s. No, especially especially in something like this. It's like on the surface, you're like, oh yeah, it's a love letter to the movies. But then when you really like listen and pay attention to the plot and the bits in between the big, song and dance numbers.
Oh yeah.
It's like they're poking fun.
Oh yeah.
And taking the mick out of Hollywood.
There were some moments that I was just like, it's like, dang, that's something I'd say about Hollywood.
Bird shade.
I'm like, are we sure this came out in 1952? This sounds like something that you'd hear on YouTube today.
Yeah, and the thing is,
it was kind of fun.
True. Is the thing is like it comes off as satirical, but it's based in truth because obviously modern cinema as we know it really got started in the 1920s, where we would start getting what we consider feature-length movies. I mean, obviously we had the first Academy Awards in 1929. You can go back and listen to the very first episode of Gold Standard. We start there. And that was a silent film. We say silent movies. I mean, movies were never truly silent. It's just it was music. All they had was music because that was the only thing they could, that technologically they could figure out. From even before Hollywood became a thing, though, from the minute cinema and the idea of making pictures move was invented, people have been trying to add sound, sound effects, music, actual speaking. There will be several videos linked in the show notes to several YouTube videos talking about in the late 1800s with Thomas Edison, of course, because he has to inject himself in everything, whether he actually belongs there or not. Tried to invent ways to get sound to go with film. There were at least 3 different types of technology versions on display at the World's Fair in Paris in 1900. So, slightly under 30-ish years before we hand out the first Academy Awards. People are trying to figure out. But the technology and what people wanted to do was kind of like with Walt Disney, where it's like, I know this can be a thing, that just the technology, I can't, the stuff that exists right now won't do it. So they had to make do with what they could. A lot of you would go to movie houses and they would have live music because they couldn't even do recorded music because it could potentially get out of sync. That was one of the biggest issues, was getting stuff in sync, even if it was just music, because they tend to use either like Edison's wax cylinders or records, which could get scratched easily and needles would skip. And the next thing you know, you're getting the real dramatic music playing when somebody's skipping down the road, picking daisies. Well, and there's an example of that in Singin in the Rain with the test, the voices,
and the voices, and it's they're shaking their head when they should be nodding, and yes, no, and all the people walk out and like, oh, that's awful. It was synchronicity was the biggest thing, the biggest issue. The other issue, which they don't really touch upon in Singin in the Rain, is actually amplification, where even if they could get the sound to sync up, speakers did not exist for large, or even medium-sized movie theaters, so that the entire audience could hear it.
That's the one thing that
they
doesn't
didn't
really
have the
get touched upon in
THX set up
this.
like we do today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't until things like surround
Yeah.
sound came along that
Yeah.
really made a huge difference.
I mean, there was that bit where the microphone doesn't pick her up unless she's speaking directly into it. But
The
even
types
that
of
doesn't.
the types
Yeah.
of microphones was also an issue. Yeah, because
I know,
they didn't have the
watching
variety
that-
like we have
yeah.
now, where you have specific microphones for certain situations and pick up certain
And then her
Watching
with
that-
the pearls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And watching that scene, I was just like, I mean, like I know it's meant to be like to show how hard it was to do in the beginning, but I just wanted to be like, no, just move stick your head right there and don't move, lady.
Move. Yes.
She's too dumb.
I know.
Yes.
I know. I
And
kept
it's like,
wanting to scream at the director, just grab her head and put it right there and tell her not to move it. Like,
And then
what
when she
is your-
asks, it's like, do you think I'm dumb or something? I'm just like, you
Yeah.
really want us to answer that?
It's like, yeah, you kind of are,
Resounding
lady.
yes.
Yeah. So the technological side of it was a pain in the butt. And we see that with Monumental Pictures, trying to figure out the technology, and they somehow in the process of making that movie, having the bad screening, and some undetermined amount of time later, they figure out all the technical stuff to be able to do a big flashy musical.
You know what? It's called suspension of disbelief.
Suspension
It's
of
like
disbelief.
absolutely, you guys can figure this
Absolutely.
out because
Yep.
because you just sang a song about it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. But on the Hollywood side, besides the technical stuff, is a lot of the big stars of the time, once they were like, oh, we can have them talk and not just move their mouths and then show it, a card up on the screen with words, they realized that some actors were not going to translate very well. In some cases, it really was their voice. There are some actors that looked great. They looked the part. That's Lena Olmont. She's so beautiful and gorgeous. They're at that the opening movie, the red carpet, and there's the one girl in the audience. It's like, she's so refined. I think I'll kill myself.
Oh my
And
gosh. It's just-
there were some actors and actresses where their voice, people realized, oh no, this is not going to match the persona that we have built up for them as a movie star. And in some cases, it wasn't necessarily the voice was bad. It's just the style of acting they did not translate. Somebody like Buster Keaton, who was a good actor, but his thing was being the stone-faced guy who keeps his cool and doesn't react to all the shenanigans happening around him, buildings falling down and all the, because all of his movies are, like the crazy, like, him falling off the side of a building and hanging off the clock tower, and entire sides of houses falling down, and he happens to be standing right where the window is, so he doesn't get smushed. But he always does it with an absolute straight face. But once you start adding the sound, it does not translate the same way.
No.
So then, and a lot of Hollywood thought that the whole talking thing was going to be a fad. They just thought that the silent movie money printing machine that they had going was going to continue. This would be a flash in the pan, kind of like some other things that have come and gone, like 3D back in the day. The 70s, they tried to do 3D with the red and blue lenses. You could go see Vincent Price and House of Wax, I think, was one of the first ones, I think, in like the 60s or 70s. Some theaters had tried to do smells or other type 4D effects, seats that move, that stuff never picked up mainstream. There are some very specific places you can go to. A lot of theme parks have theaters built like that.
Yeah.
Where you get like the 4D effects on top of whatever it is you're
Yeah,
watching on
but
the
if you're,
screen.
your neighborhood movie theater, I mean, some do, like my movie theater there, you can like get the, I don't know, it's got some name, but it'll like your chair will vibrate if there's like a crash or something like that, or it's got its own speakers where it feels like everything's. But you have to pay extra for that. Like not everybody is gonna. So you can't really build your movie around that being available. I mean, you've got stuff like IMAX, which most places have, which is amazing, but really that's it. You think about like all these silent film stars, and they think, oh, we're gonna, silent films just the way it's gonna be.
Yeah.
But then you kind of have to think like, well, this new technology's there, and then you're gonna discover people who, like this one, Kathy Selden, she's got a beautiful voice and she can sing and all these things. And so, yeah, it's going to open up a new avenue for people that maybe they didn't have the presence to be stars in the silent film era, but they have the voice for it, and the voice is really what sticks, which, and now if, I don't know, they'll ever make another silent movie, and that will be kind of the what's the word? The gimmick, I guess.
Yeah.
It'll be some kind of gimmicky thing, and that one will get all the Oscar nominations. Like, ooh, look how much they're harkening back to the days of yore.
I mean, we will get like that on Gold Standard, but not for quite a while when we do The Artist. Which was 2011. So,
well, there you go. It's like, I'm sure they've done that. I just wasn't aware of it. But there you go.
Yeah. Where it's kind of about the same. It's about the silent era. So, the funny thing is even in actual Hollywood, it's funny that Singin' in the Rain has this kind of plot, secondary plot of, the studio is trying to figure how to keep up with modernizing. And then the stars trying to keep up. And then you got kind of this sub-ish plot of Lena's voice being so terrible. So they have someone like Kathy come in to dub for her. And that was a thing that Hollywood did, actually, for a long time in the 50s. Actually, going in the 50s and the 50s and 60s. There were I guess if you paid enough, if you paid enough attention, you would know. But she was Hollywood's worst kept secret. There was a woman by the name of Marnie Nixon, who was the singing voice of most of the major stars. She did the singing voice for Natalie Wood in West Side Story. She was Deborah Carr's singing voice in The King and I. She was Audrey Hepburn's singing voice in My Fair Lady. Which Deborah Carr for The King and I, actually, she was fully aware that she was going to be dubbed, and she was okay with it. She knew that she didn't necessarily have the chops to sing some of this stuff, and she, in interviews, would name Marnie. And like fully admit that, like, no, my singing voice has been dubbed for this movie. And all the Hollywood hoo-has are like, oh my god, no. They try to keep that thing under wraps. And like Natalie Wood, they let her do all of West Side Story and sing, and it wasn't until after they were done that they told her they were going to scrap all of her recordings and replace her. Audrey Hepburn apparently was not happy with it because she thought Marnie was just going to do like some of the high notes that she wasn't capable of. and then found out that no, Marnie was actually going to dub everything and was rather upset about it. So
some years ago, like just kind of dubbing in general, there was a nostalgia critic video about talking about dubbing over people who singing, and he used the two examples of Russell Crowe and Les Mis and Emma Watson and Beauty and the Beast, because neither of them are very good at singing, and it's like, why is it such a big deal that why do you don't need to sing, you can act. I mean, there's a reason that that's called the triple threat. If you can act, sing, and dance, then that's amazing. But if you can only do one or even two of those things, that's good too. But very few people can do all of it. And so it is no shame. And it actually hurts the movie if you're like, oh, I'm going to sing this, sing in this musical film, even though either my voice is not the right thing, because Russell Crowe can sing, he just isn't good for musicals. It's sort of a we
need to talk about Les Mis at some point.
I think we do, yeah,
because the way that movie was filmed, pretty much did the entire cast dirty, having them sing live on set.
Yeah,
right.
Because
instead of in studio and lip sync.
Right, because it is very hard to sing when you're doing things like sitting. Your body
watching your mark
makes a huge the body position makes a huge difference in how well you can reach certain notes and use the diaphragm.
Well, and even in Bollywood, which is famous for its actors who can do all three, routinely they'll have a recording of someone else singing the songs. So so rarely, like I've got a lot of Bollywood soundtracks where I just love to listen to the music, but it'll have the singers listed, and they are not the people who are playing the characters singing in the movie. And it's just kind of like, look, this is what serves our movie. So it's okay if these actors don't sing and have someone else dub over for it. And I know the Audrey Hepburn thing with my was like, yeah, she could, but her voice wasn't right for what they wanted, so they had to have the other gal in there sing, because she could sing the way they wanted the character to sound. And in animated movies they do that all the time. You have someone who's the speaking voice and someone who's the singing voice. What big deal? Absolutely. Look at any Disney musical from the 90s, and you will see, it wasn't the case with everybody, but a lot of them.
I would say occasionally you will get like your Paige O'Hara who could do both.
Yeah, you'll have Paige O'Hara or Jodie Benson, who are amazing.
But no offense to Ming Na Wen, but she's not singing Reflection.
And that is okay, because she brings something else to the character and not the song. So like I look at these actors, like especially when they have musicals now, they're like, oh, we're going to sing our own songs, and it's like, oh, could you please not? It would really benefit the movie if you had someone else do it. So it's like, there is nothing wrong with being dubbed over, especially because singing is hard. I took singing lessons when I was a kid and a teenager, and I've kind of fallen out of it, and I'm just like, I still love to sing, but I'm not as good as I used to be.
Yeah, me too.
It's just like, I wish I'd kept up with it, because it takes practice and things like that to really keep up with it. So it's hard work with your voice. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is, at least as far as Singing in the Rain is concerned, is the fact that they did it behind Lena's back.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. They could have,
and they let her believe that she actually is good.
Right. Yeah, and part of it was that whole diva thing, like, I'm so amazing, and oh Don, we're gonna get married, right? Even though he constantly tells her no.
Yeah,
but
you're my
like,
fiancé.
Your fiance. I'm like, did he ever ask you to marry him?
Marry him?
No. You're not his fiance.
She believes her own press. She believes her own press, apparently.
Delusions the grandeur.
Yeah,
seriously,
she's got them.
But so it's like they can't piss her off, because she's our money ticket, and it's just kind of like, it's kind of like, well, maybe you're gonna have a new money ticket soon.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Kathy. Hi.
Yeah. But what's funny is you have Kathy Selden doing Lena Lamont's voice in what's going to be the Singing Cavalier.
Mhm.
But in reality, Debbie Reynolds' singing voice was dubbed.
Wow.
Oh wow.
And the scene where you see her and Don in the studio when Lena finds out after Zelda tells her, which Zelda played by a teenage Rita Moreno. So which I thought was funny. But and then Lena comes in and she's like, I find out you've been she comes and confronts them in the recording studio. Right before that, the lines that they're recording is like, our love will go on till the stars turn cold, or whatever it is. I'm not going to try to replicate the acting. That is not Debbie Reynolds' speaking voice. That is actually Gene Hagen's Lena Lamont. That's Gene Hagen's actual speaking voice.
Wow.
So you have a scene of Kathy dubbing Lena, but it's not Kathy's voice. It's actually Lena's real life voice, the actual actress' voice. It's like voice inception.
Oh my goodness. So sometimes like you follow the chain and you just kind of start going cross-eyed. You're like, what?
Yeah.
I can't follow this.
I mean, it's Hollywood at the end of the day. It's kind of a hot mess. It is funny. But I mean, Debbie Reynolds, she knew exactly what was going on, so it's not like she was being surprised. And she would talk about this in interviews all the time. It's like, yeah, no, that was actually Gene Hagen's voice. It wasn't mine. And she didn't care. She was just happy to be there and be part of this. I mean, she was 19 when they made this movie. She'd done a few bit parts, so this was like her first big starring role. And her and Kathy were not that far separated. She was a huge Gene Kelly fan. And so to have Kathy be like, oh, actually, I I read a lot of the fan magazines and I may have seen all of your movies was not that big of a stretch, which I totally get it. Because I've also seen all of Gene Kelly's movies. But she also knew how hard this was going to be. I mean, it's always hard when you get your first big role. You're like, oh, this was my big break. I hope I don't screw it up. It's even more so when you're acting against somebody like Gene Kelly, who was a huge star in his own by this point. American in Paris had won Best Picture of the Year before, which yay. But royally pisses me off because I really think that's why Singin' in the Rain got denied. the following year. But the production of this movie was tough for everybody involved. Debbie Reynolds, because she was young and inexperienced, she had come in, she'd been a gymnast, so she was an athlete, but she wasn't necessarily a dancer. By the time they finished filming 14, 16, however many hours it was for the Good Morning sequence, she'd get back to her dressing room and take off her costume and her shoes, and her feet would just be bleeding because of going so hard. At one point she went and hid under a piano crying her eyes out because she was just like, I can't do it. I can't, because Gene God love him. The man was not perfect at all. Good looking, very good looking, fantastic, super talented. Absolutely a triple threat. Um, but the man was a huge perfectionist when it came to his work, and he expected everyone else to be to that same standard, which is really difficult.
Yeah.
And Gina got into her about something, and she took off and set in a like a adjoining soundstage or something, and found a piano and was hiding under it and crying. And someone approached her and they're like, "What are you doing under there? Why are you crying?" She's just like, "I can't do it. I'm so, it's like I'm so inexperienced that I just can't keep up." And the person is like, "Oh, come out here. Let me talk to you." It was Fred Astaire.
Oh man.
Aw.
Oh.
Fred was like, "Come with me," and he took her to where he was rehearsing, which he famously never let anybody watch him rehearse. But he felt bad enough for her, and he's like, "Come with me. Let me show you, how I do things, and maybe you may learn a thing or two." But yeah, so she got a pep talk from Fred Astaire.
That is so cool.
Very nice. And I'm sure Fred is just like, Gene, you and I need to have a little conversation. Hard to say, probably
he
not.
and Fred Astaire never really crossed paths, because they were a different style of song and dance band. Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers were very top hat and tails and long flowing gowns and ballroom dancing, and Gene was Gene was really considered like the blue collar song and dance man. He's from the Pittsburgh-ish area, and apparently the Pittsburgh Pirates, whenever they have a rain delay, they play Singin' in the Rain.
Not surprised.
So that's that flashback at the beginning. That's sort of semi-autobiographical for Gene Kelly.
Little bit. Yeah. His name is in the hat, so he will get pulled one of these days, and we will talk about Gene properly.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm like trying to rein myself in, like let me talk about Gene Kelly and how amazing it is. Like, no, his name is in the hat. He'll get pulled eventually.
Okay.
Gotta calm
Rachel,
myself.
don't stack the hat.
I won't. He hasn't been pulled yet. So
all right,
we've done it 16 times. So
true.
He's been in there pretty much the entire time. So
we can wait.
Exactly.
It'll be funny to let Rachel off the leash when.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a few names in there when they get pulled. It's like, okay, here we go. You know who you are. Donald O'Connor, who played Cosmo Brown. The poor guy, I mean, obviously also talented. He would not have been hired for this job, especially for something like the Moses Supposes sequence, if Gene didn't think he could keep up with him, because you had to. You were not going to dance alongside Gene Kelly, especially considering some of the choreography is they're literally supposed to be in sync with each other, side by side. But the make him laugh
was impressive.
Yeah,
that was impressive.
It's one of my favorites.
Wow.
Yeah. But Donald O'Connor, the make him laugh sequence, he did, he filmed it, got royally beat up in the process because all the flopping on the ground, that was not cushioned. That was on a sound stage. So he's doing
the team and then
holy cow.
Yeah, so he's flopping around on concrete with just like that Persian rug underneath him, essentially.
Oh my gosh.
All the stunts, like walking up the wall and flipping over and then actually going through the wall, that's all him. It's not a stunt double or body double or anything. It's all Donald O'Connor. It's a very physical sequence number, and he did it, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna need a few days to recoup. I think he ended up going to the hospital, which it wasn't necessarily something just because of that sequence. It was also the fact that he was smoking like 4 packs of cigarettes a day. So he was he was not in good shape by the time they finished filming Make 'Em Laugh. So he ends up getting hospitalized. I think more for the smoking than anything else. And so he goes out of the hospital to recuperate, get like fluids and oxygen and stuff, I'm sure. And they're doing the rushes at the end of the day where they check the footage and everything. They realized the camera was not in focus.
Oh no.
So then they have to go to Donald, who's still recuperating in the hospital, and be like, Don,
we goofed.
Can you do it again? And God love him, he did. Obviously, because it's in the movie and it's in focus, but yeah. The fact that he was literally beating himself up.
Oh man.
Do that, and like, then to have to do it again.
Give me a bonus.
Yeah.
And then I'll do it.
Yeah, that scene where where they're trying to think about a new title for the movie, and he's like, I got it, The Dancing Cavalier. And he's like, Don, remind me, give you a raise. It's like, hey, give me a raise. Yeah. Not that far off, I think. And then Gene Kelly, for his famous perfectionism, the Singing in the Rain sequence, he had a temperature of 103.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that he was like really, really sick, but he showed up and did it anyway. And
yes, several times. There's an urban legend that he did it in one take. That is not true. It took like 2 or 3 days.
I was gonna say,
for a number of reasons. One, Gene was sick. 2, the suit he was wearing, as it would get soaked, would shrink because it was made out of wool.
Oh no.
Wool is not supposed to get wet like that, folks. This is a reason wool gets dry cleaned. Or you spot clean it if you happen to get something on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I because I knew that he'd been sick, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm sitting there watching that scene, and I'm like, oh, I mean, I know it's like rain in studio, and this is a set, but I'm like,
it's a set. It was
but I'm sure it was like warm, but I'm just sitting there going like, oh my gosh, is this, I'm just hearing my grandmothers talk about, you get in here right now, young man, because you're sick and you're gonna get worse. You're gonna get pneumonia. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
Too late, Grandma. He already has it.
Yeah. Like, you want to go to the hospital?
Yeah. Well, and so they're filming this thing, and they would have to do it. It's done. It was filmed during the day, and then just to make it look like nighttime, they would put like black tarps over the top, and then the water, so that it would actually show up on camera. The water is actually a mix of milk, because otherwise, just water would be too. So not only is he in a suit that's shrinking, but he's getting soaked with milky water.
Which is
not
probably
just regular water.
Gonna smell nice in the morning.
Probably. But they could only film for so long during the day, because by like the late afternoon, evening, they would lose water pressure because of all the people in the neighborhoods and the surrounding area would come home and turn on their sprinklers.
Oh dear. And this is the sequence. This is the song sequence that this is the title of your movie, so it better be amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, there were some speed bumps in the production of this movie. Just a few, Just people ended up bloody and bruised and sick, and water would run out in the middle of the day. And this, that, the other thing.
Yeah.
But they persisted, and the movie was finished, and it got its red carpet premiere March 27th, 1952. Got its full US release a few weeks later, April 11th. It had a budget of 2.5 million and made 7.2, which in 1950s money is that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. So it was the 10th highest grossing movie of the year in the US and Canada. And it only got 2 Oscar nominations. Jean Hagen got nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and then it got nominated for Best Scoring of a Musical Picture.
So I went and was looking at, because on the Oscars.org site, they have like, okay, here's everything that was nominated and what won and everything. And, 1953, it was, so I'm looking at all these movies that won and were nominated, and I'm like, the only one I've remotely heard of that actually, won, that actually the only one I've heard of other than Singin' in the Rain is High Noon.
Mm-hmm.
And all these other ones, like The Bad and the Beautiful, like there was a version of Moulin Rouge. Like I knew that the Ewan McGregor, Nicole Kidman one was a remake, but I didn't realize, this was the year of this 1953. And some of these others, I'm like Member of the Wedding, Come Back Little Sheba, The Bad and the Beautiful. Well, there's one called Carrie. I don't know if it's. I highly doubt it's the one of it.
I think that's before Stephen King's time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like Rashomon. There's a movie called Hans Christian Andersen. I'm like, hey, that would be a fun one to see, because But I'm just like, I haven't heard of these. Okay, I guess The Quiet Man, if it's the one I'm thinking of, with John Wayne.
Yep.
But that is one. Okay, so I have heard of it. I have not actually seen it because it wasn't one of his westerns. But some of these, I'm like, I've never heard of them. But yeah, I sure as hell have heard of Singin' in the Rain, even if this is the first time I've seen it. Yeah. So again, the Oscars kind of have this tradition of, here, we're going to nominate what's popular in this year, but it's not necessarily what's going to be popular in 50, 60, 70 years down the road. So just because you win that little statue don't mean squat for your legacy. I'm sorry, but it doesn't.
Yep.
Right.
Which you can go back and listen to our episode of The Greatest Show on Earth on Gold Standard.
Yeah. It's just... Yeah,
the only thing we have to thank The Greatest Show on Earth for is it was the movie that inspired Steven Spielberg to go into filmmaking.
Well, there you go. Yeah, because you look at all those Gold Standard episodes, and every time one comes out, I'm like, I ain't never heard of this movie, but apparently it was the best movie of that year. So,
yeah, no. This is one of those that you're just like, what? I'm still kind of convinced that the only reason that won The Greatest Show on Earth won that year is because at this point Cecil B. DeMille had been around for like 5 billion years, and they just assumed that he was probably gonna like go off and die in a corner somewhere sometime soon. And
so they better give him an award.
They better give him a big one before he keels over. And it's like, if you had just waited a few more years, you would have got like the 10 Commandments out of DeMille, and you could have given it to him for that.
Seriously. Yeah. It's just, this is, my soapbox, because now, like, critics, like, film historians, they love, like, Singin' in the Rain is on those top lists all the time, and it's it changed movies, or it's very iconic, or blah blah blah, whatever. And you look at the year Oscars, 2 nominations. Did it win either of them? No, I don't think so. No.
Nope.
So
Mhm.
there's my little rant about the Oscars, just as a side note, just in general.
Yeah.
And I'm, you know,
So sometimes they don't know what they're thinking. We gotta
yeah,
forgive them, for they know not what they do.
this
I think
is
sometimes
true.
they don't think is part of
Yeah.
the problem.
Not every year.
Yeah.
Not every year do you have a Return of the King or, you know, a Lord of the Rings trilogy that you can honor, that, you know, something that is going to last for years and years and years and years, and we talked about and looked back as that one. Do that movie, because
Mhm.
that did amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
Some
Yep.
of these are just kind of like, well, it was good enough for this year. Which, you know, some
Yeah.
years there's probably, you know, not so great to choose from, but at the same time, it's like, you had Singin' in the Rain, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And 70 years later, I'm still bitter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think Gene Kelly and company got the last laugh ultimately.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, longevity wise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Absolutely. I mean, this movie has just been, it's been homaged and parodied and referenced
It is.
anywhere and everywhere.
It's like I'll tell you this. Well, go ahead, Holly.
I really enjoyed this because this is the first time I've actually sat down and watched the whole thing. I like Rachel with the
God, you
Fugitive.
guys are killing me.
I've seen bits, I've seen clips and then parts of the movie. And then I finally sat down and I'm just like, I absolutely loved it. And then
this is what it's like being on the other side when we're gold standard and people are like, you have not seen this movie.
Right. And
I'm sure there's a few
pieces of it.
I'm sure there's a few, like if we dig deep and Holly and I have seen a million times that Rachel, like, I never seen that in my life.
Yeah.
Right. And just the way that Cosmo and they interact, it's just, I was getting glimpses of Wallace and Davis from White Christmas just a little bit. I'm just like, okay, I'm pretty sure Singin' in the Rain came out first, but I'm wondering if that kind of interaction and interplay didn't kind of inspire us, like, let's have a little bit of that
in this era. The kind of your handsome leading man and having kind of his goofy sidekick was a very common
thing
combination, and then having some, you know, beautiful young woman or two or three in some cases. And let's see, Anchors Away is another Gene Kelly, where it's him and
then we had Holiday
Sinatra.
Inn. That one, Holiday Inn,
and then On the Town is another where it's Gene and Sinatra, and I can't remember the third guy. So yeah, it was kind of just a common formula for the movie musical then, was to have your handsome leading man and then his still good looking but not quite as classically good looking but still can sing and dance best friend usually.
Yeah.
Cohort in crime.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And you know, like I kept, and maybe it's just because it's a mark of just sort of how cynical I am about movies today and storytelling today. I'm like, you know, if this was made today, Cosmo would like turn out to be the villain, and he's just, you know, like, everyone looked at you and
yeah.
and they never gave me the time of day, but now everyone will know that I was the brains behind it. He would be the Ernesto de la Cruz type of guy.
Come
on, Lena, you and I, we're gonna make the town.
Yeah, or something. I'm just yeah. I'm like, you know, in this era
this is one of those movies where this better not be touched as far as remakes are concerned.
Oh yeah.
I mean, everybody
it's been adapted for the stage, which that's fine.
Yeah. Obviously, watching it
Broadway stage, that's fine. But anything else?
This is one of those you do not touch this and remake it.
Yeah,
Who's
I'm a
cold?
little.
No,
I don't
touchy.
care.
I was worried. I like normally I would say yeah they'll never do it, but then again they remade Ben Hur, so I'm just kind of like It's like what other creatively bankrupt crap are you gonna pull, Hollywood?
Yeah, really.
But anyway,
Original
but no,
ideas. We need them.
seriously, where's the modern Gene Kelly who can come up with? I mean, well, what I was gonna say before is because I was working on a story time, because we do like these little story time packets people take home while we while the library while we can't quite do story time just yet because the weather outside, we have to do everything outside still, and the weather hasn't been great, so we just make little take home kits. So one of the ones I did this just a couple weeks ago was a springtime one, and one of the books that I found was actually a picture book of Singin' in the Rain, not the movie.
Oh, cool.
Not the movie, but it's just the song. It's the song lyrics with pictures of kids playing in the rain, and it's just like and it was like kind of an epiphany for me, because I didn't realize that the song came first and then the movie.
Oh, yeah, the song comes from the 20s.
Yeah. So
there's still at some grocery stores in my hometown that when I go to, in their produce department, when the sprinkling above the produce is supposed to start, guess what comes up?
Oh,
Singin' in the Rain. Yes.
Oh, I love it.
Yep.
Yeah, it was. It's so funny. Like, I remember years and years ago, like we were in the middle of a drought. Like, when is Utah not in a drought, basically? But there was like a radio station. Like, we need the rain, so we need to come up with songs that talk about rain. And all the songs I could think of were really sad. Like, oh, she left me, and my heart. It's all awful. Yeah, and then they're like the only ones that were happy that they could think of was Singin' in the Rain and I Love a Rainy Night. So they're like, we're gonna sing, we're gonna play music so we can get. Oh, yeah. Here, I'm gonna drop our this picture book, the Amazon link, in the chat, because it was so dang cute.
Yeah, I had a copy of it wasn't vintage, but I had some sheet music that was Singin' in the Rain at one point. It's gotten lost in moves somewhere.
Yeah.
So I probably don't even have it anymore. If I do, it's in a box. So I used to have a big poster on my wall for the longest time that was that iconic shot of Jean up on the lamppost. So you used to be able to replicate that at Walt Disney World.
Oh dear.
In the Disney's Hollywood Studios, they had a backlot area that was designed to look like your sets, like one section looks like a like a New York street with the entrance to the subway and that sort of apartment buildings and that sort of thing. And at one point there was a lamppost with a permanently attached umbrella. It was actually made out of metal, that you could stand there and hold on to the umbrella. It was put up in a way that you really couldn't climb up on the lamppost, but you can hold on to the umbrella and stand there and kind of pose. But then there was also a switch on the ground. So when you stood there under the umbrella, if you put your foot on the switch, it would release water. So as long as you were under the umbrella, you wouldn't get wet. But so you could have someone take your picture and it looked like it was raining if you framed it right. But that backlot area is now all gone, and that is now Batu. So
no, well.
It is now a galaxy far, far away. And then that scene was also one of the vignettes inside the Great Movie Ride, also at the studios, which that attraction actually opened while Gene was still alive, so he was actually
Nice.
able to give the
Cool.
AOK on the audio animatronic. The look of it. But that attraction has also since closed, and there's a Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway there now. So, but yeah, it's so iconic and so referenced in so many places. Obviously the Singin' in the Rain sequence is probably the most iconic, but you get, orange juice commercials that play Good Morning.
Oh yeah.
They Glee, they did a whole episode that was an homage to Singin' in the Rain. That's the episode where Gwyneth Paltrow appears as their substitute teacher. It's called The Substitute. And they end up actually closing out their final number is Singin' in the Rain remixed with Rihanna's Umbrella, which is appropriate considering Tom Holland's performance on Lip Sync Battle several years ago. So
yes. Which is so good, right up there with Clark Gregg's Toxic.
Yes. Yeah, so I could just wax poetic about this and Gene Kelly for ages and ages and ages and ages. So but yep. No. Anybody have anything else?
Like I said, this was very enjoyable for those of you who are on the fence. Try it out.
Yeah.
Put it on. You're not going to be sorry or disappointed.
And now I just have that itch of there's some classic movies that I need to see because
yes.
they're ones that I've like wanted to see for years and years, and I just haven't done it, and I'm like, I need to do it. So go watch this one, pick out some others. I mean, there are some absolute gems from way back when, and even some really good ones in black and white too, although this one is in color. But yeah, it
is in color.
Oh yes.
Oh yes. Although the funny
Brilliant,
part was
lovely, gorgeous color.
Yeah. Last night, I'll tell you this one little bit. So last night, as I was watching it, Jared came down to because the kids were with me, and he's like, "Okay, it's time for bath," and it was in the middle of the Broadway bit, so toward the end of the movie, and he's looking at this, and he's looking at it. It's like, now what is going on? So I had to stop and explain the whole thing to him because he came in and during the Broadway musical number. And it's like that one is like has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. Doesn't even look like the rest of the movie is, and like the one flapper lady who's the main dancer.
Oh yeah,
Gene Kelly,
Satirized.
She is not
for days.
She is not it. He was like, "That's not Debbie Reynolds, is it?" I'm like, "Oh gosh." I need to back up a few steps because apparently he hadn't seen this one either.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of funny having, trying to explain what was going on. When again, this was the first time I'd seen it, but I mean, I was following it pretty well. The plot is not hard. Really, this movie is about the music and the dancing and the singing. And I mean, it's right there in the title, Singin' in the Rain. So, it took me a minute to realize that, and now I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm with you. We're kind of this is where we are. So yes, go pick up some of those old classic Hollywood gems that are gushed about by all and sundry, because there's a reason that they're classics. Anyway. So that being said, if any of our listeners have anything they want to say about Singin' in the Rain or Gene Kelly or Debbie Reynolds even, or any of the topics we've touched on here or before today even, you can give us some feedback. Our email address is fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also visit our website, which is the5ishfangirls.com, and there you will find links to all of our social media stuff and all the different ways to support the podcast on Patreon and our merch shop. and a couple other things there too. And as always, we thank you for listening. We thank you for your support, your comments, your interactions with us, and glad you're out there and glad that you're enjoying it. And thank you all
very much.
Mm-hmm.
Yay. All right. So with that, we shall sign off for this week.
This is Chrissy saying goodnight from Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. If we bring a little bit of joy into your humdrum lives, it makes us feel as though our hard work ain't been in vain for nothing. Bless you all. Listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. You can find more episodes and information at thefivishfangirls.com. Any and all books, movies, games, and any other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by the respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied. If you wish to support the show, the easiest way is to leave us a rating and review. More ratings and reviews will make it easier for others to find the show. If you wish to support us monetarily, you can do so at patreon.com/5ishfangirlspodcast. All money goes towards fees and equipment to keep the show going. For official Five-ish Fangirls merchandise, visit redbubble.com/people/5ishfangirls. We love hearing from our listeners and encourage feedback. You can email us at fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/5ishfangirls. Thank you so much for listening, and may the squee be with you.